In this comparative study, I will analyze the variation of suspense films through distinctive mise-en-scène. I will be comparing the 1920 German film The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, directed by Robert Vine, with the 2019 American film Midsommar, directed by Ari Aster. I believe these two films are a perfect example of how mise-en-scène can be used to evoke certain feelings in the viewer and produce a crippling sensation of thrill based on the fears of the audience. Fears have a tendency of changing through time, based on the social context in which the film is immersed. In Midsommar, Astor presents a broken relationship between two young Americans, which is held together by a family tragedy, the suicide of Danny's sister and along the death of her parents. Danny's fear of being alone and vulnerable keeps her attached to an unsupportive man, Christian, who constantly wishes to break their bond. In the 21st century, it is common to see dependence in a toxic relationship. As millennials grow afraid of being alone, become addicted to social media, and rely on constant reassurance of other individuals. This, accompanied by Danny's insecurity and low self-esteem, keep her bound to a depressive state of mind. In the midst of an existential crisis, Ari Aster relates to the character as he states he was going through a breakup.
Navigating the ruins of a failed relationship.
Mental instability is also a recurrent theme in the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, as it narrates the delusions of Francis, a patient of a psychiatric hospital who believes the doctor is an evil showman. The social context of the movie is based on the experiences of soldiers in World War I, and therefore the traumas it involves and the ruin of their mental health, leading to mental illnesses, as portrayed in the film. German expressionist films like this arose after the Lost War as a way for people to express their dark emotions, depicting the depressive mood of the people of Germany, with the loss of money, jobs, and lives. These dark feelings and vulnerability are portrayed in the movie and felt by the viewers of the time, especially through the plot and how it is conceived. German expressionist plots often surrounded madness, identity loss, and insanity. This usually resulted in a dark film with an emotional background. In other words, both films present an emotional journey of identity crisis through the damaged minds of the characters, in which traumas and fears generated by a social background direct the plot. As we can see in these films, the styling of mise-en-scène changes a lot through times. According to Moura in 2014, the French word for placing on stage refers to the arrangement of everything that appears in the framing: sets, actors, makeup, lighting, decor, props, costume, and even the camera work. In the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, Vine designs as a real world, which evokes a distorted reality as an insane character would perceive it. The expressionist film uses contrasting lighting, asymmetrical camera angles, crooked backdrops, harsh lines, painted shadows, and distorted objects, like the extremely tall doors and chairs. On the other hand, Midsommar presents a striking visual design with each scene, especially through the art and set design seen during the stay in Hargo. The film evidences a more French impressionistic style, as it shows the beauty of the place superimposed with the terror of the unfamiliar rituals of the cult. When it comes to the sets, the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari is set on a studio rather than real locations in order to create Vine's personal surrealistic world. With German expressionism, exaggerated sets are used to externalize human emotions, as the fear and horror present in the main character who narrates the strange murders in his town. The town consists of distorted buildings with sharp edges and tilted walls, and canvas-painted backdrops. The dark and twisted world is shown to the audience as a schizophrenic patient would see it, with strange shapes, slanted buildings, and distorted windows and doors. This portrayal of surreal towns is also evident in modern films like Edward Scissorhands, which shows a juxtaposition of a nightmarish house with the brightly colored houses in the town. Edward's Gothic house consists of sharp edges and dark colors, common to the techniques of German expressionism. The expressionistic design is based on extreme distortion, resulting in a dark, surreal world. For example, the house of Dr. Caligari is very small in size, consisting of only one room, with one window. The room shows harsh black lines painted on the walls. Also, the prison cell where the suspect is being held shows black and white triangular shapes painted over the extremely tall walls, which continue down to the floor. The painted walls achieve a suffocating effect by making the place seem thinner than it is. Meanwhile, Midsommar presents Hargan, a seemingly peaceful village in Hälsingland, Sweden. Hargan is composed of a vibrant open field, with green grass, majestic trees, and colorful flowers. The place looks kind of like a fairy tale, until the strange, horrifying events occur. The vast field includes symmetrical shapes, cubed buildings, and triangular structures. Ari Aster and production designer Henrik Svensson built the whole town in a matter of 2 months, with the intention of representing the lives of rural Scandinavian communities. Analyzing the buildings of the cult, it is important to highlight the beauty in the symbols included. For example, the walls and roof of the group dorm is painted with flowers and runic letters. Another room also includes visual symbols which foreshadow events to come, as seen in the image of a burning bear in a black and white wall, surrounded by other symbolic images. Ari Aster creates a beautiful setting, but makes it scary by making it a remote Swedish village, requiring a long plane ride, a long car ride, and a long walk through the woods. This involves the fear of the unknown. The fact that it is far away from Danny's home, America, makes it scary and anxiety triggering for her, as she is afraid of being alone. This is all very related to the use of light. In the cabinet of Dr. Caligari, darkness is used to make the moment scarier, as we cannot see what is to come in the night. The lack of light and the way Vine plays with it is simply remarkable. For example, shadows were used to enhance the ominous shapes, especially Cesar, the alleged murderer. Robert Vine actually painted shadows onto a film set instead of producing them naturally, making the shadows seem unnatural and more threatening, while representing the way the ill patient sees the twisted world. Along with the set design and the painting used, the lighting enhances the claustrophobic sensation by using low lights inside rooms, making many events happen also during nighttime. The murder of Alan, for example, shows how Cesar lifts a knife to attack the sleeping man. However, Cesar's face isn't seen at all, but his gruesome shadow is, followed by the struggle with Alan as he fights for his life. This is done to highlight the dramatic moment through the conception of darkness as evil, since naturally, humans associate the dark with death and all that is bad. According to Emanuel, 2017, we fear what we cannot see, since we rely on our visual sense to detect any threat around us. Because of this, horror movies tend to create the idea of intimidating figures lurking in the dark. Therefore, sunny places are interpreted as safe, because one can see everything around, so there are no surprises. However, Midsommar defies human nature by presenting a well-lit set, in a place where nighttime lasts just about 4 hours. This is known as daylight horror, which damages our concept of eerie by switching the fear of the dark with fear at all times. Ari Aster plays with the viewer by producing a false sense of safety with light. The production design is visually beautiful, and the open field in broad daylight makes us think that nothing bad will happen. Yes, the place is bright and pretty, but it is at plain sight that the shadow of the cult's rituals are present. For example, the suicide of the elderly under incandescent sunlight, or the sexual scene between Danny's boyfriend and the red-haired girl, which involves infidelity and betrayal for Danny. Aster takes advantage of the light to focus on the gore details of the strange rituals, like the sacrifices with fire, or blood, or the skin peeling. These horrific sights in plain daylight seem surreal to the characters, creating confusion and misunderstanding of reality. In conclusion, the representation of suspense in film varies through time, as the social context impacts the fears of the audience. To create the thrill, directors used the audience's weakness against them. In the cabinet of Dr. Caligari, the audience was psychologically affected by World War I. These dark feelings are transmitted in the film through the main character, Francis, who shows his perception of a dark, eerie world with slanted buildings, distorted objects, and strange characters. Midsommar also focuses on the social grievances of the audience, like unhealthy relationships and psychological issues. However, fear is presented hidden inside the most beautiful settings. The Swedish village is a magnificent sight, which hides grotesque rituals and sacrifices in plain daylight.